Lou. Oh, yes. Yabashi. We're back at this again in the Onyx Void. And what's that? Okay, that's not. It's not a military jet. Okay. Yes, we're back in it, and it's Friday, the day after the big old Christmas. By the way, I'm not gonna say Merry Christmas, but you guys, how was your Christmas? Did you guys get good presents, or is it still just for children? What's going on with that? No reports have really come out for Christmas, although before Christmas everybody was saying that nobody will be getting gifts. And if they get a gift, you know, it wasn't going to be like this large thing. In fact, some people were going to be re-gifting. But what did you guys get? If you don't mind me asking, leave it in the comments. Maybe leave a like while you're there. Just start a conversation, because I didn't get anything. Because, I don't really celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa anymore. Because, well, I am not a child and there are no children around me. No Diddy. No Diddy on that one. And, it's tough times. It's tough times to really get into the spirit that is giving other people stuff, although you should do it. It's something else. It's something else to really try and feel the spirit of Christmas in these trying times, when there are people around you that are definitely doing terrible, doing lesser. In fact, they're living outside in tents. And the police are, trying to get those tents off the streets, at least from what I saw this morning after coming back from a day labor office, which had no work, of course. Nobody was there. Nobody told me that anything was there. This whole week has been weird because, well, like I said, it's Christmas and everybody's got the Christmas glaze on their eyes, the Christmas glaze over their eyes, and they're not thinking, they're just happy to get the ultimate Christmas gift, which is a moment to not think about all the things that you're not doing that could be producing some kind of form of profit for most likely somebody else. But right now, walking, talking, of course this is going to be more random thoughts because that's what I do when I walk and talk, but I will throw them out to the void. Actually, I take that back. I have a list to talk about things and topics to keep me on topic. I wrote them down with a pen and paper because, my phone be spying on me. And I knew that, but it's become not so obvious. It's become obvious, of course, but it's always been obvious. I just happen to have my phone on me. Last time is generally I don't. When I come and speak my thoughts into reality just to see what happens. But it's interesting to see how much the algorithm and how much the AI is actually listening. But and you sometimes get to the point where you ask, are you thinking these things? Or are you seeing these things then thinking them because you were told to think them? Or you were nudged to think them? Is there some kind of other psychological play happening in the background of all this AI business, constructing a reality that you think that you might have stumbled upon by accident, or weren't exactly told to do? You were zoned out and you just heard it, but you didn't think anything of it, but it was stuck in the back of your subconscious, and now you say it and then YouTube just replays it to you. So you think you're just in a terrible headspace. You're confused. You're thinking, oh man, I said that, and now YouTube is playing it. so it must be spying on me, but really it gave you the suggestion to begin with. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird because that's what I feel sometimes. It's like, did I say it, or did YouTube or some other place on Google, because there are places outside of YouTube, go and say it for me? Yeah, okay, so we're on the walk to the dollar store, usual, the greatest pastime. And it's funny, okay, so I'm on YouTube, and this place called The Hill, how they immediately start saying, well, at least today, allegedly, the title was that, or it's the thumbnail, I should say, young men, or men in general, are consuming too much YouTube. And I'd say, yeah, that's the case. Yeah, that's the case. It's the only place we can go to feel somewhat not gaslighted about the current reality of things. Somewhere we can go and say, hey, I'm not the only one thinking or feeling these things. Now, the question is it all part of the plan? Or is it the truth? We may never know. But the observable reality is that you resonate with YouTube, you want to be on YouTube, and YouTube is conforming to the thoughts of the people that frequent it, because YouTube gets ad dollars and money from keeping you on the platform first and foremost. So even if it's the most right-leaning, most misogynist content from whatever new public figure yapping on about, they'll still play it, because views are views, no matter how much it goes up against the narrative. Plus, they can always put out not misinformation, but the counter opposite of that information to get people to live in this duality of worlds, where one side is saying one thing, and then a few minutes later you see a video that says the other, and you end up with people that talk out of both sides of their necks. But that's just YouTube, and that is our reality now. But the reality is, for a lot of people, do you use Windows? You probably use Windows. You probably get home, you boot up your Windows, or you get to work and you boot your Windows, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It's a crapshoot. Today, I had a call from a friend. We talk off and on, every week or so, and he was in a panic. And what happened is, he's a streamer. He's streaming the game on I think it's on Callisto Protocol or something like that. He's playing that, and he was trying to turn on OBS, and he was trying to do other stuff. And his computer crapped the bed. Of course, it's Windows 11. It's going to crap the bed. So I started giving IT support to him. We went through it, what the usual questions, did it say anything from the blue screen of death? What was the error message? Of course, it was just as helpful as Windows as always is, smiley face, well, frowny face. Something unexpected happened, which tells you a whole lot about Windows. Of course, they want you to go and buy the new stuff, but who has $2,000, $3,000 laying around these days, working at a fast food place just to, go buy a computer and use like half the year's worth of money that they saved up in one shot? But, we went through it. I was being a good IT guy, asking the serious questions, error messages, how much RAM you had, what was he doing last time, before this happened. And what I'm thinking what happened was, he told me that he couldn't download any more games before he started playing Callisto Protocol. So his hard drive was full. And most likely what happened is when he's running, you know, Steam or whatever he was playing on his games on his Windows, and plus OBS, being that he only had 8 gigabytes of RAM, his computer started using at least in Linux it'll do this. I'm not sure if it'll do this in Windows, but in Linux, it'll start using the SSD as RAM through a swap partition for a temporary storage. And when that happened, that probably crashed the computer, actually. They say it was getting screen tears and stuff while he was playing the game, and then it just blue screened out and then wouldn't start again. So I had to assume either Windows was doing something in the background trying to install updates, and that filled up the hard drive. That on top of the RAM partitioning, the swap partitioning filling up, all that came together in a combination to just completely wreck this computer. So the solution was to put his computer in troubleshooting mode and have him do a factory reset and then offload all the information on his computer onto an external hard drive. And that got it back up and running. Now, I do suggest that he goes to Linux, but here's the crux, the crescendo of this. He doesn't know anything about computers, let alone about how Windows functions. In fact, he just figured out what a UEFI in BIOS Windows was today. And I have to wonder, is there still people out there who are using computers, laptops, all these things, PCs, that they see the numbers, they hear the names, but they don't exactly know what exactly is going on in the computer. They've never taken a computer apart. They just assumed that it worked, and if when it didn't work, they would just go and buy another one. Of course, for my friend, he's seen that the computer was acting strangely. The first thought was, oh, I'm going to throw this thing away. I was like, no, wait. That's what they want you to do. Push up a bunch of e-waste, which is Windows is eventually going to get to. That's eventually where we're going to end up with a ridiculous amount of e-waste, because Windows is Windows. But switching to Linux is what I heavily recommend you do. But that was my experience. If anybody asks me in the future, if I'm trying to get a help desk job, do I have any experience? I'm gonna point back to this. I'm gonna call him up and be like, hey, did I help you fix your computer? Because I've been looking for a help desk job, and by the by, I did say this in the last video, I do have a regular job coming up. It's definitely confirmed today. And of course they want you to spend money before you get there, buy your own equipment. Unlike Amazon, it's like Amazon, they want you to have the ding diggly doo steel toe boots, of course. There's always some steel toe boots involved for your proletariats making under $20 an hour doing actual hard labor, because hard labor is not valued anymore. And that's the sentiment going around for everything, why the Gen Zs don't want to work. Hard labor is not valued anything anymore. Which leads me to my next topic, is there's a discussion going around about remote work. I think this was on Textual Chatter. And would you take remotely working 120K, or for the same job go into the office for 250K, which is a little bit more than double? Now, me personally, there's a lot of factors to that. Some did come up in the Textual Chatter's feed, but I'm going to touch on here, and I'll probably expand what it really goes into, because there's only so much nuances and logistics can actually be put out into at least one video. And same here, but I'm going to try anyways. I mean, we're talking about 120K versus 250K. Now, 120K, if it's a tech job, it's most likely going to be on the West Coast, California, Oregon, Seattle. I'll tell you right now, maybe aside for like south of Oregon, none of those places are going to be cheap. 120K will barely get you a studio apartment. We're talking, what, and the tech hub itself, San Jose, Sacramento, San Francisco, those areas, a studio is going to cost you $4,000 a month, just a single bedroom. You're looking at $4,000 a month on top of all the fees you have to pay if you want to get a car to actually get to work. You're talking about a car. The cars are ridiculous these days. What, $80K, $60K for a Camry, a Corolla? You know, so you're talking $1,200 for just paying for a car lease, and then having to pay insurance on top of that. Well, it's the accident capital of the world, most likely, so because so many people drive. So you're talking probably $800 for insurance. I'm hearing ridiculous numbers these days. $1,200 for insurance. And it all depends on where you live, really, and where you're going to work. And they take all those factors into account, especially now that they're using AI now. You know, everything is a data point. How many accidents happen where you live? What's the median income of people where you are? And it really, if you're looking at things through an insurance lens, it really boxes everybody in to a cost of living. It boxes everybody into a area. Now, it was taking 250K. I'm going to live where the 250K a year people are living. And that's never going to be cheap, because most of those people are going to live well beyond their means. They're going to think they're balling. So they're not going to have a Camry. They're most likely going to have an F-150, which is an $80,000 truck. On lease, it's probably like $1,500 a month, which they probably think is chump change. So when you total all this stuff up, it just average it out. You're talking about spending $8K a year. $8K a month. $8K a month for $250K. That's going to get that $250K very, very quickly. And that's not including paying utilities, health insurance, life insurance, if that is taken out of your account. What Gavin Newsom's talking about, especially in California, where they're trying to take unrealized gains out of your taxes, and trying to take more taxes out of your tax returns, and try to go retroactively for the past 10 years. I've been floating this ideal for not only not paying your taxes, but for new taxes they're going to create out of your taxes from the past 10 years, and just keep jacking up your prices and your taxes and fees. You're talking about 250K will be just eaten up in fees and insurance alone. Not to mention the insurance premiums are also going up ridiculously while hospitals are shutting down. You're going into a city like Sacramento, New York, all these places for 250K. You might as well be making minimum wage, honestly, because that 250K is going to disappear within a few months. It's really not going to be worth it. Now, I would do the remote thing. Me personally, I would try to remote. Of course, the biggest factor about remote work is one, getting a separate computer to do all my remote working on, because getting hacked is a real thing in 2025. Having some hacker come pretend to be you, having some hacker intersect man-in-the-middle attack your VPN, you VPN into your place of work. It's all real things that can happen, amongst other things that can happen. But the 120K, I could be in somewhere cheap, like, I don't know, Nevada. You know, you could be in Vegas. It's slightly cheaper than Sacramento, San Francisco. You could be in definitely cheap New Mexico. Albuquerque would definitely be cheap. I mean, you just have to worry about, getting your stuff stolen. But I would stay in Mexico and live somewhere cheap, but not have anything. But whatever laptop I need to do work, and just some necessities, and just stack money up till I can go buy something that I want in some other state, that and work another part-time job. You also get the freedom to work another part-time remote job on the side, whether it be part-time or full-time. That's the thing nobody talks about. All that commute to and from work, $250K, still not worth it, especially, once again, in your high rent cities. But that's just my thoughts. There's more to it. There's more logistics to it with insurance and everything else. There's always the inevitable accident. Maybe you have a heart attack. Maybe you have, and then you're out of work. Maybe you get laid off and your services are no longer needed. Okay, well, now you still live in this expensive city. What are you going to do then? How are you going to stay in that city if your money was already being eaten up by the city itself? There's so many questions and factors that come in to living next to your job. And this is one of the things I pointed out when I was working. I gotta be careful how I say this. While I was working with Intel, not for Intel, I was working at the Intel facility with Intel as a contractor, but not directly with Intel. You gotta say that for legal reasons, of course. And I pointed out that if I walk across the street to the apartments with what you're paying me, at the time was $19 an hour, which in all honesty was the most I ever got paid for anything ever at the time. But if I were to take this that was $18 an hour, and I got 19 like a few weeks later. But it was $18. I gotta take this $18 an hour, which was in the end of 2019, beginning of 2021. And I were to take that and walk across the street from Intel. I'm gonna come back to that point later. If I were to take that and go across the street from Intel and try to get one of those apartments, I wouldn't be able to live. I wouldn't be able to do anything. Just like I said, if it just came down to living in an apartment, a studio, 1 bedroom, having a Corolla, trying to put it on lease with insurance and everything, you're talking about quickly eating up that $18 an hour. That's if you could even get in. At that time, they weren't doing crazy stuff where they're like, oh, you have to have 3 times worth of rent before you ever get in, and proof of work and all this extra stuff they have now. I can only imagine, on top of already high rent prices, high insurance prices, high utility bills, high everything, how $250K just wouldn't cut it. And on top of having to need 3 times the amount of pay up front to actually get into an apartment and actually live somewhere. So that's my thoughts on that. But let me know in the comments. By the way, once you're there, if you're there, leave a like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. The previous video I was going to post, but once again, unorganized thoughts. I didn't really think it was all that great, so I just moved on to something else, which I'm posting now. Recording now, and I'll probably post it a little bit later. I'm still on Monday, Thursdays. I'm still trying to hold to that schedule, but I'm not making any promises. So if you like what I said, if you're vibing with it, if you got any comments, any logistical stances on the 120 to 250K, reasoning, logic, logistics, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the void on the next one.